The hearse hadn't even come to a full stop before chaos rolled right in. And I mean that literally. Trisha Loop, president of the Maple Quay HOA, jumped the curb in her pearl white SUV and drove straight across the cemetery grass, coming to a halt right on top of my son's freshly dug grave. Picture it, the casket not even lowered yet, family in tears, the priest stumbling over his words. And this woman, oversized sunglasses, HOA badge dangling like she's got a federal warrant, leaning out her window and shrieking, "You cannot stage unauthorized gatherings on common view lots." My mother dropped the lilies she'd been clutching, the priest lost his place in the scripture, and I just froze. My hand still gripped the edge of my boy's casket, couldn't even process what I was seeing. For a second, it felt like the whole world just stopped breathing. I'm Mason Dillard, by the way. I live on Larkspur Court in Maple Quay, the sort of neighborhood where people argue over the right shade of mulch like it's a matter of national security and keep a carpenter's level on hand just to check mailbox heights. I design kitchen cabinets. Nothing flashy, just a guy who waves at the neighbors, pays his dues, and tries to mind his own business. Or I did before all this. My son Jamie, 10 years old. Leukemia took him from us. It didn't care about bylaws or HOA covenants or what shade of beige the shutters were supposed to be. But Trisha, she cares about nothing but control. She's been HOA president for 6 years, never had a challenger. Nobody wants the job, frankly. She wears that badge like it's some kind of police shield. Once, she showed up at my house before sunrise, holding an actual protractor to tell me my American flag was tilted 3 degrees too far. Wrote me up for having a wind chime. Said it was unneutral. Still don't know what that means, but the violation letter included a decibel reading, so she'd apparently measured it. When Jamie started chemo, we put a little blue ribbon on the mailbox, pediatric cancer awareness. 2 days later, formal warning letter, said it was an unapproved motif. Mostly, I kept my head down. I mean, who's got energy for a power trip over mailbox decor when your kid's fighting for his life? But as Jamie's time ran out, Trisha got worse. She started dropping violation notices 4 yard. Melancholy. Yeah, that's a real phrase. I have it in writing. According to her, my grass looked neglected due to emotional distress, and that was lowering neighborhood morale. She'd stand out front, notepad in hand, counting cars, taking down license plates while we were in hospice. She even sent the HOA board a memo with a hand-drawn parking diagram, suggesting we postpone non-essential gatherings. My son was dying. She called that non-essential. We posted funeral details online, just so Jamie's school friends and their families could say goodbye. Trisha commented within 20 minutes, "Please adhere to parking standards. All guests should utilize overflow parking at the community pool area." She hated that the funeral procession would pass the neighborhood's entrance. Sign, her personal monument, she called it. She even emailed me at 11 p.m., no joke, insisting we avoid spectacle and use a different route so as not to disrupt primary thoroughfares. I ignored every message. I was planning my child's funeral. But Trisha Loop, she does not like being ignored. So, there we were, Willow Bend Memorial Gardens, 3 miles outside Maple Quay. Totally separate from the neighborhood. Family, neighbors, Jamie's friends, the priest, everyone gathered. And here comes Trisha, barreling up, flicking on her hazard lights like she's at the grocery store, then stepping out in a neon yellow safety vest over her blazer. She starts snapping pictures of the headstones and the mourners, announcing, "This is for documentation purposes and will be submitted to the board as evidence of noncompliance." The cemetery isn't even part of Maple Quay. She told the groundskeeper she had municipal authority and flashed her HOA badge at him like it was a police credential. My sister tried to talk sense into her, but Trisha just dialed 911, said there was a threatening group creating a disturbance and an illegal burial party in progress. That's a direct quote. The hearse had a dash cam rolling. There were security cameras on the poles, and at least a dozen phones out, recording the whole mess. Every shot of her tires chewing up the grass, right over the vault liner. The police showed up, one officer at first, who looked down at Trisha's badge, then back up at her, and just said, "Ma'am, this is not your jurisdiction. You're trespassing." You'd think that'd be the end of it. Nope. Trisha doubled down, said, emotions do not override covenant regulations, that we were all required to follow procedures. The cemetery manager brought out the official burial permit. The priest tried to explain about grace and mourning, and, get this, Trisha shushed the priest. At a child's funeral, the cop asked her, nicely, at first, to move her vehicle. She folded her arms, refused, said she was not leaving until the inspection and documentation were complete. The officer repeated himself. She refused again. Then the groundskeeper, hands shaking, pointed out that her SUV's tire had actually cracked the temporary vault brace. Real damage, right over the grave. Suddenly, the tone shifted, hard. The officer called for backup. 2 more patrol cars showed up. They cited Trisha for trespass and interference with a burial. Then they noticed an open can of pepper spray on her passenger seat and a fat stack of cease and desist forms she'd made herself, complete with a fake Municipal Enforcement Division seal. Turns out, she'd called the cemetery office the night before, leaving a voicemail threatening fines under a made-up ordinance if the funeral went ahead without her sign-off. That voicemail, plus the videos, the photos, the witness statements, all went straight to the county prosecutor. Now, if you've never seen an entire HOA board try to vanish into the wallpaper, let me tell you, it's a sight. The court date came fast. The courtroom was packed. Neighbors, the priest, the grounds crew, 3 very nervous board members. The prosecutor, a woman who looked like she'd seen it all, presented what she called the highlight reel. Footage of Trisha's SUV parked right on the grave, the 911 call where she demanded multiple units, her emails and voicemails threatening $5,000 a day in fines, the whole timeline from blue ribbon violations to her suggesting we postpone the funeral of a dying child. But the charge that stuck, the one that made the judge lean forward, was felony desecration of a burial site, obstruction of a funeral, and impersonating a public official. The judge, a stone-faced woman in her 60s, glasses hanging from a chain, listened to every word, watched every video, read every email. She finally looked over her glasses and asked Trisha if she had anything to say. Trisha stood up, smoothed her blazer, and with absolute sincerity said, "Your Honor, I was protecting property values and maintaining community standards. Someone has to enforce the rules even when it's difficult. That's what leadership means." I swear, you could feel every eyeball in that courtroom rolling at once. The judge exhaled, took off her glasses, and handed down the sentence like it was carved in stone. 10 years total, 5 in state confinement, 5 suspended with probation, mandatory counseling, psychological evaluation, full restitution to the cemetery for all damage, including the vault brace and resodding the entire area, plus $15,000 to my family for emotional distress. Oh, and a lifetime ban from any HOA board, anywhere in the state. 1,000 hours of community service, specifically maintaining veterans' graves under direct supervision. When it was over, you could hear a pin drop. Trisha's pearl necklace clacked as her hands dropped to her sides. Her mouth just opened and closed, nothing coming out. Her lawyer touched her arm, but she didn't even seem to notice. She just stood there, stunned, like she finally realized that for once, her little HOA badge wasn't going to save her. So that's how it happened. My son's memory is still sacred, no? Amount of HOA nonsense can change that. Sometimes, justice really does come through, even if it takes a fight you never wanted to have. Now, I've got to ask, if you'd been in my shoes, would you have kept your cool? Or would you have lost it right there, in front of everyone? Where's the line between standing up for yourself and making a scene? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's hear your own stories about HOA nightmares, or times when authority went way too far. And hey, if you believe some things are just too important for rules and red tape, hit that like button, share this story, and help me keep this conversation going. What's real justice look like to you?